All right, today we're going to talk about cell structure and function part 2. We're going to be learning a little bit more about the cell and some other parts of the organism. All right, so we saw a little bit of a function as a cell on the inside. We're going to go ahead and pass that video up now, and we're going to watch this video on the Golgi apparatus.
Hi, my name is Mary Poffenroth, and I'm an adjunct professor of biology. Today, we're going to be talking a little bit about the Golgi apparatus. So if you think of the endoplasmic reticulum like a big factory making proteins and lipids, then you can think of the Golgi apparatus kind of like FedEx or UPS, where those products are going to be taken to that shipping department where they're going to be sorted, packaged, and sent out to all of the customers. And like any good shipping department, the Golgi apparatus is going to refine, package, and ship off all of those proteins and lipids either within the cell or outside the cell. Thanks for watching, and if you want to learn more about this subject, click on the link below. Or if you want to learn more biology, feel free to click on any of the links around me. And please, rate, comment, and subscribe to this channel. Or maybe, if you have ideas for more videos, send us an email at requests@mahalo.com. Thanks for learning.
All right, so you will hear me compare the Golgi apparatus to like a FedEx or UPS, just like she did. It is important. That's what actually modifies and sends out the proteins to where they need to be in the cell. So that's the cool thing about the Golgi apparatus. It's actually going to be our shipping department. It's going to send what we need to where we need it to be. So a unicellular organism versus a multicellular organism. What we have here is the unicellular organism. And what we have down here is a multicellular organism. That's obviously a human body. This is just some sort of bacteria. Unicellular is a one-celled organism, and it can perform all necessary functions of life. So it's a living thing, but it doesn't have multiple cells in it. Our example here on the right is a paramecium. Okay? So it eats, it breathes, it moves, it does all the things that you need to do to be considered alive, but it does it with just one single cell. And that one single cell is actually extremely small. It's smaller than any cell that you have in your body, as you saw on that web quest that we went through last week. A multicellular organism is a cell that has different cells. And each cell carries out a specific function. Like we have blood cells, we have eye cells, we have skin cells, we have brain cells. They all do something different so that we can be alive. Our stomach cells go ahead and bring us the ability to eat and digest food, whereas our lung cells bring us the ability to intake and use oxygen and expel and release the waste, which is carbon dioxide. If we had all lung cells, we wouldn't function because we wouldn't have any energy. So this relies on other cells to complete their processes. And then our example is just the easiest one that I know of is us. Diffusion. All right, write one note on what you're seeing happen above. So as we see this start to occur, this is a process by which materials are exchanged between the cell and its surroundings freely. This is passive. It doesn't take any energy for these materials to move from one place to another. It occurs because all molecules are always moving and they're always bouncing off one another. So diffusion is something where if there's a high concentration of molecules in one area, they're going to try and spread out so they're not all right next to each other because they're just bumping into each other, flying around. And then eventually, as we saw in this animation, it started out with nothing up top, and eventually we got it all spread out to where there's a lot up top. Not quite the same amount as in the bottom, but we still got a lot up top. What they want to do is they want to get as far apart as possible. Molecules, they want their own space. It's like you in a crowd. You don't want to just be like right next to people all the time. You want your own space. You want your own personal space. It's like all the molecules are like Mr. Moore saying, "Don't touch me. I'm married." Okay, but they continually bounce off of each other until they get out and free into their own space. So diffusion is all about going from an area of big group to spreading out throughout the whole classroom. We'll do an example of this probably as a class here in the next coming days. Rates of diffusion. In a concentration that is the same inside and out, the molecules will move in both directions. So just because we have the same concentration doesn't mean molecules stop moving. It actually means that they're going to keep moving, but about the same amount is going to come into the cell that leaves the cell. Now, if the concentration is different, the molecules will move from the area in which there's a higher level of concentration to the area of the least level of concentration. They do that because they want to spread out. They want their own space. So they bounce off each other until they get to their own space. And when there's less things to bounce off of, there's less things for them to go in certain directions. So here's an example.
Place 1 drop of food coloring into the petri dish full of water. This is to show diffusion in action. With diffusion, the particles of food coloring move from an area of higher concentration to an area of lower concentration over time.
So you see how it started off as a dot and now it's spreading out throughout the whole petri dish?
In the beaker to the left is hot tap water, and the beaker on the right is cold tap water. You can see how temperature affects the rate of diffusion. With higher temperatures, the rate of diffusion is higher, and lower temperatures, the rate of diffusion is lower.
The reason it's higher and hotter temperatures is because molecules move faster. So if you drink sweet tea, this is why Mr. Moore won't drink sweet tea if they bring me cold iced tea without sweetener in it already. Because it just doesn't diffuse as quickly and spread throughout the whole liquid. The sugar doesn't. So that's the same thing we're seeing here. It's moving throughout the whole area of space that it has. This is actually an example of osmosis, where water is diffusing. So we'll talk about osmosis here coming up, but watch this gummy bear. See how that gummy bear went from being small to big? I didn't really notice it the first time I watched it in slow motion, but when it went back like that, I really noticed it. So that's called osmosis. Osmosis is the diffusion of water.
Hello, this is Hank Green, and welcome to SciShow Experiments. You know what I enjoy? Water, and the being alive that it makes possible. Our cells are constantly absorbing water through one of the simplest forms of chemical transport, osmosis, which is the movement of materials in a solution across a membrane. And dissolved materials always follow the same rule. To flow from a region of high concentration to a region of low concentration, the result is equal concentrations on both sides of the membrane. Now, I'd be happy to volunteer one of my cells to demonstrate this to you, but it'd be a lot easier to use an egg, for a bunch of reasons. First, the size. My cells are tiny, very difficult to see, but an unfertilized chicken egg is actually a cell, a huge single cell. In fact, at any given time, the largest cell on Earth is an ostrich egg. The egg's innards, the yolk and the whites, are contained within a membrane just under the surface of the eggshell. That's much like the membranes of my cells. Also, the innards have a high concentration of protein and fat dissolved in them, so they'll tend to absorb water in order to create that balance I was talking about. But to get to the membrane, first we have to dissolve the shell, and that lets us do do some really sweet bonus chemistry, and then in the end, we'll have something that looks like an alien's gonna hatch from it. All you need is an egg, a cup of vinegar, a cup of corn syrup, and a couple of days. Sorry, but science takes time. Start by immersing the egg in a cup of vinegar. This is where the chemistry comes in. About 4 to 8% of vinegar is acetic acid. The rest is water. Meanwhile, about 95% of the eggshell is calcium carbonate, which you also know as chalk or lime. The acetic acid dissolves the calcium carbonate by swapping out the carbonate for acetate, and it becomes calcium acetate, along with some water and another byproduct you could see forming after just a few minutes, carbon dioxide. After 1 or 2 days, the vinegar has completely dissolved the eggshell, leaving only the membrane to keep the contents of the egg, which are still raw, mind you, together. You can even hold this uncooked shellless egg in your hand. But something strange has happened. The egg is now larger than it was yesterday. What is up with that? Well, the egg's membrane is semi-permeable. This means that only some material can pass through. Remember, vinegar is mostly water, and though the acetic acid can't break down the cell membrane, the water in the vinegar was able to permeate the membrane and flow into the egg, going from vinegar's low concentration of dissolved material to the higher concentration inside the egg. As a result, the egg absorbed the water through osmosis, making it big and gross and kinda alien looking. But what if we wanted to reverse that process, to draw the water that's now inside the egg out of the egg? Well, we'd have to put in a solution with a higher concentration of dissolved material in it, something like maybe really salty or really sugary. To try that out, immerse the big alien egg in a cup of corn syrup. This is an extremely sugary solution compared with this solution inside the egg. After another day, you'll see that the alien egg has gotten even more gross. The water has flowed out of the egg and into the syrup, leaving the egg's innards inside a wrinkly, gross membrane. Egg, vinegar, and corn syrup, a disgustingly delicious recipe for freaky cool science and a better understanding of osmosis. Thank you for watching SciShow Experiments. If you have other ideas for experiments, or questions, or comments, or ideas, or anything, we're on Facebook and Twitter, and of course in the comments below. And if you want to keep getting smarter with us here at SciShow, you can go to youtube.com/SciShow and subscribe.
All right. So, I obviously missed that take 2 notes in the video clip above. Don't worry about that right now. We're going to go ahead and pass that on. That's my fault. Diffusion of water across cell membrane. So simply put, osmosis is just diffusion of water. It's just diffusion of a specific substance. Osmotic pressure is caused by, we'll wait for the bell to ring. Osmotic pressure is caused by osmosis, and it can cause the cell to burst. For example, if the cell doesn't have very much water in it, and we put it into a watery solution, and all that water goes into it, all that pressure builds up, and then bang, the cell blows up. I say blows up. Picture it blowing up. It doesn't really blow up, but it can explode, it can rupture, causing the cell to die. So, levels of organization of an organism are pretty straightforward. We've got organization by size, smallest to largest. We've got, in order, cell, tissue, organ, organ system. So let's talk about those. Tissue. Tissue is just a group of similar cells. So they're doing all the same things, okay? They're not, it'd be like a skin cell with other skin cells would create a tissue. A skin cell with a lung cell would not create a tissue because they're not similar. So for this example we have here is heart tissue. You can actually see in the video, if you were watching it earlier, the tissue moving. That's the beating of the heart. So now we have an organ like the heart. So as the heart continues to beat, we're just going to talk about, this is made up of tissue. Okay, so now we've got a collection of just the similar cells in the similar tissue, just continued to combine to create an organ, which for our example is a heart. So it's self-contained and specific to a vital function. So like if we got rid of our heart, our stomach, our liver, our lungs, our brain, we would have some trouble. We need these are vital. They're specific and vital function. The largest organ in anybody's body is their skin. You might be like, Mr. Moore, what vital function does that perform? Well, it protects us from outside things attacking like or hitting our lungs and our heart and our liver and things like that, because the skin covers us, so that way nothing can get through our skin easily. Here's our example, is the human heart. You probably guessed that because it was beating in your face. All right, and finally we have organ system. Now an organ system is very similar to what we're about to see here if this video starts to play. Maybe I have to click again. Yep, there you go. So it's a group of, I don't know why the video is not playing. It's a group of organs that perform a specific function. So now we're talking about your heart, in the veins in your body, and the arteries in your body, and how it performs, it's called the circulatory system, and it's your blood system. It's how the oxygen gets from your lungs into your blood throughout your whole body. That's the circulatory system, and they work together. So this is multiple organs that are working together to perform a specific function that's necessary for your body. Another example is your digestive system. Your esophagus goes to your stomach digests the food, puts it in your intestines, large and small, and then that goes out your rectum. Yeah, I said it. Rectum. Okay? But that is an organ system as well. It's called your digestive system. All right, we have multiple organ systems in our bodies. Homeostasis, really super important.
The same part of your brain that's controlling your heart is looking after the outside of you too.
Well, I guess we're going to skip this video because it's not working for some reason. For some reason, it's just being cranky pants. The last two videos have been, and that's okay. So basically what homeostasis is when we have a balance between all levels of organization. So we're not out of balance. We're at an equilibrium. Our body's healthy. We're ready to go. So when an organism has an internal balance between all levels of organization, that's where we call homeostasis. So our body's maintaining a proper body temperature. That word down here says temperature. If you can't read it, it does say temperature, but it's maintaining a normal, proper body temperature. That is us at homeostasis, being healthy. When we're out of homeostasis, when we're out of whack, is when we have like fevers and things of that nature, or chills. Those are when our body's trying to fight to get back to homeostasis. So when you have a fever, your body starts giving itself chills to try and cool it down, and that is why you feel cold when your body temperature is at like 101 degrees, because your body is trying to cool you back down. So trying to reach homeostasis. Everything tries to get back to homeostasis because that's where we're the healthiest at. All right. Make sure you show me your notes for the points today. If you have any questions about what we talked about, please let me know.